And we are back. I sincerely apologize for the technical difficulties or Adrian's malfunction of the mouse cursor. So when you screen share, the stop broadcast button is right above the stop screen share button. And I clicked the wrong one. So I stopped the show by accident. So we're doing part 2 now. Brennan Albert is back. I'm Adrian Vedke. So we have previewed 5 divisions so far. We didn't feel like starting over. So we're starting with the AFC North.
AFC North here, the black and blue division of the NFL. In my opinion, and maybe I'm biased here, it probably isn't it right now, but one of the best rivalries of our livelihood, Adrian, that I can recall is the Baltimore Ravens and the Pittsburgh Steelers. 2 teams that just flat out hate each other. And honestly, they're teams that really are very similar to each other. Pittsburgh in the last several years has dominated the division, winning the division more than any other team here. And as much as I, as a Baltimore Raven, hate to admit it, that's not going to change this year. I have the Steelers, again, winning the division. I have them this year going 13-3. I have them making a big jump in the division, mostly because I really think Pittsburgh has separated themselves from the rest of their division. So it's not a stretch for me to say, you know what, they're going to go 5-1 in the division this year, which is something that typically is pretty tough to do. Most teams who have won the AFC North in the past have gone 4-2. I think this year Pittsburgh separates themselves and goes 5-1, mostly because of the development of the offensive line. Martavis Bryant, of course, doesn't hurt. Offense in the defense now, we're starting to get much more improvement from the secondary. Just got to get more pressure. You just got to get more pressure than a guy who's 35 years old and James Harrison. If that can happen, look out. Pittsburgh's in a really good start here. Baltimore, I got to talk about him here because this is my team. Offensively, there is nothing. There is zilch on offense to scare you. You have nothing but a complete bust in Bashawn Perryman. And the funny thing about it, even when I went back and read some of his draft stuff, be like, oh, maybe I'm too hard on him because I'm a Ravens fan. Nope. All the things that the people said he struggled with was catching the football coming out of college. That's kind of important as an NFL receiver. That's like saying, hey, your basic ability or your basic weakness is existing. That's really what it is. So really big problematic receiving core. Jeremy Maclin's probably the best option you have, but that's not great. Nothing at tight end. Flacco is what it is. Offensive line is average. Nothing that really excites me on the defense. Great linebacker there, but nothing really aside from that. We move over here to the Bengals. The Bengals, and we talked about this in our Bengals show, and we got a ton of flack on our Bengals show. And realistically, I don't see them being better than 9-7. I think that is what they are. I think that's their ceiling. And I think ultimately this is the year they finally fire the second longest tenure head coach in the NFL, Marvin Lewis. Then we get to Cleveland. Cleveland.
Wow, you got 5-11.
I have 5-11. Congratulations, guys. You are winning more than one game. We are moving in the right direction. I have them, as much as I hate to admit this, I had them beating the Ravens. And I have them not only beating the Ravens once, but actually beating them twice. All right? So realistically, and I forgot to give myself a little yellow here for this one, but I think Deshaun Kaiser actually looked pretty damn good.
Yes.
I'm not ready to say that he's going to be the savior of Cleveland, but it hasn't looked bad. Defensively, very good unit there. Kenny Britt, I thought, was a very under-the-radar, nice signing there for Cleveland. David Njoku offers a ton of athleticism. 2 good running backs, an incredibly underrated offensive line, very solid defense, but that only gets you 5 wins. So that's kind of how I have things wrapping up here in the AFC North.
All right, well, you were kinder to the Browns than I was. All right, so I'm going to try this screen share again.
Here we go.
Let's hope I don't stop the broadcast this time. Jeez, I'm super scared to do this now.
All right, here we go.
All right, so here we go. All right, so this is my AFC North. So I got Pittsburgh at 12-4, Baltimore 9-7, Cincinnati 7-9, Cleveland 2-14. All right, click stop sharing. We're good. Okay.
There we go.
So there we go. All right. Hooray for me. Yes. Barry Horowitz myself, if you know that reference. Okay. Now for Pittsburgh, I was complaining about the Eagles going after Joe Hayden. I didn't want to do it. I didn't think that it was worth it at this point in time, especially with the fact that you got to re-sign a lot of players. But Pittsburgh was the perfect destination for a guy like Joe Hayden. We've talked about this before. I mean, if I'd rather draft and develop. The time to sign free agents is when you're ready to win a Super Bowl. And that's where Pittsburgh is right now. So, sure, did Joe Hayden get overpaid? Yes. But for that team, for the Steelers, they need all the cornerback help they can get, especially for New England. I mean, Brandon Cooks, that's kind of what the Joe Hayden matchup is for. They're both kind of like the similar kind of smaller types. So not that Hayden can last with Cooks, but Hayden's a lot better of an option than some of the others that were on the roster.
Completely 100% agree with that, Adrian. The time you take shots on guys like this is when they suddenly become available in your Super Bowl contending team. Because here's the news. You know what would happen if Pittsburgh didn't sign him? Bet you the Raiders would have. And then all of a sudden you have another team in the same type of conversation with young corners, young defensive backs, trying to bring in a vet. So I thought it was a good move for Pittsburgh. Do I think he's all of a sudden going to be a stud? No, not necessarily. Joe Hayden's not a top 10 corner in the NFL anymore. But it's a nice solution. I mean, look, realistically, does it make your team worse? No. So why the hell wouldn't you sign him? So for Pittsburgh's sake, I think it's a good situation. But honestly, my biggest problem with Pittsburgh isn't the coverage. It's getting pressure. They got to get pressure from someone unnamed James Harrison. As long as they do, very, very good team here in the AFC.
Well, T.J. Watt has established himself very early on in the preseason, so they're hoping maybe he's the guy starting over James Harrison.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. Realistically, James Harrison, at the end of the day, is still going to be there on third downs. Maybe he's not the quote starter, but on third downs, you're still going to see him coming off the edge. And if Watt develops, and if Watt, even if he only has 5 sacks, it's a very, very successful year, and it's a very good development opportunity there in Pittsburgh.
All right, let's move on to the AFC South. So this is another division of intrigue, especially with the Titans. A lot of people liking the Titans this year.
And you know what? I'm one of them. I will fully admit I'm a big Titans fan this year. To me, this was very similar to how I viewed the NFC West. I think there's one team and then a bunch of meh. I think the Titans are really moving in that direction. Don't get me wrong. Obviously, the Texans the Texans did win the division last year, but you know what? They won the division mostly because they were the best defense in that group, not necessarily because they're the best offense. Look at what Mariota has done. Look what the Titans have done for Mariota in this offseason. Gone out, signed a former number 1 receiver in the NFL, Eric Decker, who had one bad year. Okay. Drafted Corey Davis. Okay, now we're doing some nice things. They already had the best offensive line, in my opinion, in the NFL. Have very good running back situation. Mariota does not turn the ball over, has still yet to have a red zone turnover, as one of our viewers mentioned. That was a great stat, and I appreciate that. So they have yet to have a red zone turnover. Defense, very good. Are they elite? No, but they're a very good unit there. Went out and got Jonathan Sapien from the Jacksonville Jaguars to be one of their safeties. Drafted Adoree Jackson. I like what Tennessee has, so they have them at 11-5, winning the division. Now, the former division champs I have here in the Texans, are the Texans moving in the right direction offensively? Yes. Is it enough to stop the Titans? I don't think so. I have a hard time thinking a rookie quarterback is going to all of a sudden make you stop a team like Tennessee who's moving in the right direction. And then I'm really split. The Colts and the Jags, I really don't think there's that much of a difference here. Obviously, everyone's like, oh, well, Andrew Luck. Okay, next. All right, T.Y. Hilton. Okay, really good. Next, and then there's a massive drop-off. There's not a lot here in Indy. Indy's one of those teams that because they have a great quarterback, I think people give them more credit than their roster deserves. Not a very good offensive line, a 72-year-old running back, a defensive front seven who's got nothing to really get me excited. And then they have, a good corner situation there. And then they have Malik Hooker. But honestly, Malik Hooker, I'm not ready to call him a bust. But he only did it for 1 year in college. So let's not make it sound like he's a surefire thing. So I don't have anything I really love in Indy. Then we get to Jacksonville. Jacksonville seems to be the king of the offseason, but the loser of the regular season. They do a great job with bringing in free agents. The defense has the all-name team. Realistically, they're one of the best cornerback situations in the NFL as long as A.J. Aboye can even prove that he is 3/4 of the year he had last year. Very, very good. They're going to run the rock here. Fournette is going to get the ball shoved down his throat. until he physically cannot handle anymore, and that's the right move to make. Bortles is probably going to get, I would say 6-7 games in. And eventually, he's going to get replaced by Henne, and then Chad Henne's going to get replaced by Bortles, and it's going to go right back and forth. It's not a good situation, but because of the defense, because of a good running situation, because of a good receiving core, Jacksonville is going to win more games than they deserve, which is the worst problem in the world because Jacksonville will not be in a position to go out and get one of those highly regarded quarterbacks. So it's going to be interesting to see what is Jacksonville going to do next year with the quarterback situation. Do you go out and try to get a guy like a Tyrod Taylor, or do you mortgage the draft picks and you try to trade up and get a quarterback? Either way here, no question in my mind, Tennessee wins the division. I have them winning by several games too, Adrian.
All right, so we disagree on a team. And Jacksonville, I have making the playoffs as a 6 seed. I'll get into them in a second. So I'm going to share my thing again. So let's hope I don't fuck this up. So I got Tennessee and Jacksonville, both at 10-6. The game to watch for Tennessee, week 1, right out of the jump, you got the Raiders at home, I believe. And this is a matchup that I have going to the Titans, and also a game that could determine some playoff implications, some home field advantage potentially. Now, I have Pittsburgh as the 2 seed, but what this game will do for Tennessee is they will avoid having to play New England until at least the AFC title game. So Tennessee will get the 3 seed as 10-6, and Oakland I have at 10-6 as well, losing that game to Tennessee. So there you go with that. Now Jacksonville, couple things with this. All right, when you look at Jacksonville's schedule, they have not only 3 cupcakes, but 3 cupcakes on the road. And whenever you get cupcakes on the road, I think that helps you put up more wins than you should. So Jacksonville, while I have 10-6, you might be right. They might be like a 7-9, 8-8 team. But at the Jets, that team's trying to tank. At San Francisco, they're not very good. At Cleveland. So 3 games like that that are very, very winnable on the road. So you're gonna have all the home games as well, and they're in a division that's not really that great. So you get Indianapolis twice. I think Indianapolis stinks. I have them at 5-11. That roster, besides Andrew Luck, besides T.Y. Hilton, like you said, that front 7 is an abomination. They've been looking for pass rushers since Robert Mathis and Dwight Freeney left. So that situation is a mess. Houston, I don't trust the quarterback situation just yet. Titans are by far the best team in the division, but I still have them finishing tied with Jacksonville. So that's the kind of the way I see it.
No disagreements here, Adrian. I mean, there's really none. I mean, you said it perfectly with the Jaguars there. The Jaguars, excuse me, the Jaguars, they get gifted with a lot of games. They're hard games at home. They're easy games on the road. That's really what you ask for when you get this schedule. So it certainly favors Jacksonville. I just don't have any confidence to say that they can be a winning team. More than 8-8 is a stretch for me. I could see them bottoming out here. Indy's another team we got to circle because there's something we didn't talk about. We don't know for sure when Andrew Luck's coming back. I mean, I think we're confident he is going to play this year. But, I mean, realistically, let me read off the first 3 games. In LA against the Rams, Cardinals, Browns, Seahawks, home against the Niners. If Luck misses those games, I see them already losing this upcoming weekend to the Rams this year because I think Todd Gurley's going to run for 1,005 yards on them. Mm-hmm. I think they'll lose to the Cardinals. If Luck doesn't play, do we really think the Cardinals roster is that much better than Cleveland? Because I don't. So I don't think it's a stretch to see them lose to Cleveland. They're going to lose to Seattle, whether Luck's there or not. And if Luck's not there versus the Niners, same conversation. I don't think the Colts roster is that much better than the Niners. I mean, realistically, if Luck doesn't play early, why play him at all? Honestly, at that point, why just say, you know what, just sit the year. We traded and we got a quarterback and Jacoby Brissett. Let's see what he can do, and let's just ride this thing out. Give Luck a year, because here's my problem I have with the Colts. Stop trotting Andrew Luck out behind an awful, porous offensive line, because all it's done has gotten him banged around. He's been wildly consistent and wildly productive behind a bad offensive line, but if you're not winning games, who the hell cares, realistically? I mean, so what? He doesn't get some fantasy points for someone, but if they're winning 7 and 9 games or they're winning 3 games and they're not winning the division and going to playoffs, it doesn't matter. I mean, the Texans won the division last year at 9 and 7, so to have them slip and go 8 and 8 is pretty normal. I just had the Titans spiking up this year, Adrian.
You know, you bring up an interesting kind of conversation with the Colts and potentially just starting Brissett for the entire year. You see, they're in the opposite situation of the Bills and the Jets. But you can make the argument that, okay, maybe it's great to tank because they only have T.Y. Hilton and Andrew Luck. There's a lot to the roster that they need to add. So if they get a top 5 pick and the Bills don't, or somebody else doesn't that needs a quarterback, think of all the trade assets that they could accumulate in the draft. So I'm kind of with you, man. It's Sam Hickey has started something.
Here's why, Adrian. I'm gonna give you an exact example of what you're saying makes so much sense. That's what Tennessee did. And Tennessee eventually got their way to get Mariota. That's what the Rams tried to do, and they just blew the picks on bad people. And that's what, a lot of teams have done. So for me in Indy, I really only think you have 2 guys who are surefire Pro Bowl level players. And in the NFL, only having 2 Pro Bowl NFL players, maybe that's good enough to win a bad division, but it's not good enough to win, multiple playoff games. So if I'm the Colts, I'm not rushing Andrew Luck by any means. I don't think there's really a need here.
Yeah. Now, I just wanted to talk about Jacksonville just for 1 second. All right, so my thought process, again, not only the schedule, but I like this philosophy that they're approaching with just pound the fuck out of the ball with Leonard Fournette. So if you're running the ball like 60% of the time and your defense is as good as it's supposed to be, I think they might be okay. So, keep the ball out of Bortles' hands, do that sort of thing. Do kind of like the Dallas Cowboys theory. So just pound the rock, keep the, kind of keep the defense off the field. But when they're on the field, I mean, they're going to unleash havoc. I think it's a very talented defense. I mean, you got underrated players all over the place. Telvin Smith. Jalen Ramsey is going to come into his own into his second year. There's players galore. They just got to all kind of mesh together. It's top 10 defense potential, but they also can bottom out, as you kind of explained. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me at all.
Adrian, what Jacksonville is trying to do is what Houston's done the last couple years to win the division. Yeah. Minimize the opportunity of throwing the ball, run the ball as much as possible, shorten the game clock, and then when our defense is able to be on the field, it's for very minimal opportunities and let them hunt and be aggressive. And that's what allowed Texans to win the division the last couple of years, but that's been it. That's inevitably why the Texans had to go out and trade up to go and get a quarterback to say, okay, we gotta do something to get over that hump. Jacksonville is like 2 or 3 years behind what Houston is, and they're in the exact same spot. Very, very good defense, very good running back, subpar offensive line. The only thing is I think Jacksonville's got a much better receiving core than Houston, but at least Houston knows who their future quarterback is.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to the AFC West. Oakland Raiders, pretty sure that's who we got up top, right?
Yep. Adrian, who I have is soon to be the Las Vegas Raiders, which excites me to say as a resident here of Vegas. I got the Raiders winning the division here at 12-4, and I have 2 wild card teams coming out of the West. And realistically, I had a lot of trouble splitting hairs between the Chargers and the Chiefs for being this last team. Ultimately, for me, I gave the Chiefs the nod because, look, losing Lamp is a big deal for San Diego. They didn't have a very good offensive line. I love the fact that they were able to get Lamp, Freeney, and Mike Williams in their first 3 picks. But now it looks like Lamp's done for the year. Williams is probably done until at least October. So now you're bad to not a very good offensive line there in Los Angeles. Oakland. Start off the year, Adrian, you talked about it. Going to Tennessee is a big one. And I have them losing, and honestly, I have them losing in a laugher. And the reason I say that Tennessee will hand you their playbook and say, here's what we're going to do. We're going to run power. We're going to run ISO. We're going to run guard. We're going to run guard, tackle, pull combinations, and we're going to run the ball right down your throat. And you know what, Oakland? You can't stop it. And you know what? They can't. And it's very, very unlikely that I see them doing it. And if they don't, I think this game could become a laugher. Offensively, Oakland is unbelievably talented, but that linebacker crew is the worst in the NFL. Once you move away from Mack and Irving, there's nothing there in that front seven. They're probably their best linebacker and best tackler is probably their safeties, and that's not really a positive thing to say. No. Now, when we get to the Chargers, I talked about them. I think they're a much better team than people give them credit for. I think that they're a good team. I just think they're going to miss the playoffs because I think their offensive line does them no favors. I don't think Melvin Gordon is going to have nearly the year he had last year. So that's just something to kind of keep your eye on. We get to Kansas City. Kansas City is a team very similar to the Texans. They're going to try to run the ball. They're going to minimize the time that they have to throw the ball, minimize the clock so the defense, when they're on the field, they're fresh and they can hunt. And I think just that coaching staff that Kansas City seems to always have, they seem to never get blown out. They're always in games that really they shouldn't be. So I have Kansas City making one of the wild card spots. And then we have the Broncos. The Broncos, to me, I have no idea who the running back is. I at least know what the quarterback is. And that offense, you take away those two receivers, and this might be the worst offense in the NFL, realistically. But that said, it's also one of the best defenses in the NFL, and I would argue it's probably the second best behind Seattle. They have the best pair of combo corners. Von Miller's a freak. Shane Ray has come into his own. I talked about, how I kind of said, on our Broncos show, and you can go back several weeks, guys, if you don't believe me. I said TJ Ward was going to be the answer there, and sure enough, he's moved on. But the defense there in Denver is so darn good. I have them getting into the playoffs. But realistically, again, if they lose either of those receivers, this offense is awful. That's the only thing that makes their offense good is those two receivers they have there.
Yeah. All right, so I actually agree with a lot of what you said. The reason why I have the Raiders going 10-6 and not 12-4 like you have them is the defense. I'm not convinced the defense can really stop a lot of people. But I do think that Derek Carr is going to make another leap, and he could win the MVP of the whole league. It wouldn't even surprise me. Actually, let me do the screen share again. Let's see if I can do it right for a third time. So here we go. Here's my division of the AFC West. So I have Kansas City at 10-6. They get a wild card. Now, I'm with you on the Chargers, dude. I like the Chargers a lot. Their defense is extremely underrated. It's kind of like Jacksonville's, but at least the Chargers' defense is kind of more proven. So Melvin Ingram, one of the most underrated edge rushers in the entire NFL. Jason Verrett, one of the most underrated cornerbacks in the entire NFL. Joey Bosa, 10.5 sacks in 12 games. A lot of talent on that Chargers defense. Quietly a top 10 unit in the league, I think.
I agree with you, man. I 100% agree with you there. That defense is freaking nasty.
Hayward, I forgot about him. Like, he's a stud. Like, they're all studs.
Yeah, and you know what? The defense, too, is fast. They have a fast defensive unit there, and their linebackers as well. I just have a little bit of concern when we get to the safety position. Trey Boston's going to be a guy I'm going to kind of keep an eye on. Yeah. He's flashed in the NFL, but since he came out of North Carolina, he's far from a surefire thing here. We talked about Oakland, and we talked about, Adrian, you have them at 10 wins. I don't disagree with you. I'm going to tell you two more teams that realistically they shouldn't lose to, but because of their inadequacies on defense, they have a very high likelihood. At Buffalo and at Miami. Undoubtedly, Oakland can outscore these teams. However, if they can't stop one of the best rushing attacks in Buffalo has, and Jay Ajayi, who's looking like a star, those are big, big games. It's trouble because you can have Derek Carr, in Cooper, in Crabtree, and all those weapons, but if they're on the field watching the defense give up gain of 5, gain of 4, gain of 7 on first down consecutive drives, you're in trouble. So I agree with you, Adrian. I have Oakland at 12-4 because I think they're just going to outscore people. But if that defense doesn't make any improvements, there's a lot of heavy run teams that does not look good for the Raiders' schedule this year.
Mm-hmm. And getting back to the Chargers, Trey Boston, He flashed in Carolina, but hasn't really flashed since. And I do like Adai, though, the other safety. I don't think he's that bad. I think he's solid. So that's how I feel about that. Yeah, you're nodding your head. Okay, cool.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so this is where you want to do the playoff bracket. You want to do that first, and then MVP and all that?
Let's do it. Let me kind of shrink my screen down real quick so it's a little more viewer-friendly.
Yeah, so we're going to be both doing the do-do-dos as we both type out our playoff brackets.
Yeah. So here's the thing is these playoffs are going to be really, really tight. I think that especially the wild card is something difficult. So here's what I got, guys. Let's talk about the NFC first. I got the Hawks winning the NFC all the way through, and I actually have the Seahawks being the Super Bowl champs. I love everything about that defense. I think the running attack is good enough to get them back to one of those elite levels. They have two really good weapons there in Graham and Baldwin. Russell Wilson has shown he will keep you in games and win games for you. Yes, I'll admit it, the offensive line is not great. I understand that. But you know what? It wasn't good when they went to the Super Bowl the last 2 times either. So I will give them the benefit of the doubt. Packers I have as my 2 seed. Look, as long as Aaron Rodgers is under center, they're going to win more games than their roster deserves. Great receiving core, a better than you would think front 7, and then the DBs, that's where it comes down to. I mean, realistically, how did those DBs match up? Because I have them playing the Falcons, and honestly, this was a tough one for me because if the game was not in Green Bay in my projections, I would have had Atlanta beating them. But I think Green Bay has a much easier division, so to me, that's why they get the 2 seed. Atlanta gets the 3. Got the Giants as the 4. I just think here's the problem. Do I think that the 3 and the 4 teams are going to be every bit as talented as the 2 teams? Absolutely. But the NFC North is a much easier division than the NFC East and the NFC South. So I think the NFC East and the NFC South both are going to be the 4 and the 3 seed. And then the wild cards, Cowboys and Carolina, teams right there is also going to be Philly is going to be right in that situation. I think you also can have the Bucks in that situation too. But I think that's it. I don't see the Vikings, having enough offensive firepower to get them there unless they can score a whole bunch of points on defense. AFC. Look, we all know it's the Patriots, all right? The Patriots are the cream of the crop, and I don't think there's anything for me to argue against. So I have the Patriots as the 1 seed winning the AFC. 2, I got Pittsburgh, and I think it's a very similar situation in the AFC than in the NFC, in that the AFC East and the AFC North, they're just much more winnable divisions than the AFC West. Now, I have the AFC West going to the Raiders. I just have a little more faith in Derek Carr to win me games down the stretch than Mariota. So I'm going to give them the nod. But I think that's going to be a very close one between them and the Titans. I think 2 through 4 is very close in the AFC. 5 and 6, I really like everything in the AFC West. I just worry that that's going to be one of those divisions who's just going to beat the heck out of each other. And then one of those teams is going to have a major injury, and all of a sudden you're now down. I don't think the Bengals are certainly good enough to be a wild card team. I know the Ravens don't have anything on offense. I just question if the Texans can continue to win strictly based on defense with a rookie quarterback. No, thank you. So I think the team realistically in the AFC who's the hardest one looking in is going to be the Los Angeles Chargers. So that's kind of my preview I have there, guys. Adrian, what do you got?
Dude, you talked just long enough so I could type out my whole bracket. So thanks a lot, dude. Thanks a lot for filibustering, and now it's my turn to filibuster for a little bit. So, all right, so here's my playoffs. As you know, I'm a fucking idiot, so I have the Cardinals claiming the 1 seed in the NFC. But, this is one of those situations, like I explained before, where I can see the Cardinals going 12-4 on an easy schedule and then losing their first playoff game. And that's exactly what's going to happen here when Seattle beats Philly in the wild card round, and then they're going to beat Arizona in the divisional round. Carolina and Green Bay. I have Carolina beating Green Bay late in the season to nab the 2 seed, but Green Bay wins in the playoffs. Green Bay just always seems to get the 3 or 4 seed and then just kind of matriculate their way through the postseason. I have Green Bay beating Seattle in the NFC Championship game. So there you go. All right, moving on to the AFC. Tennessee defeats Jacksonville. I think that'll be a pretty easy win for Tennessee there in that game. Oakland and Kansas City in a bloodbath in that other wild card game. Man, so these are two potential crazy good wild card games in Green Bay and Atlanta, Oakland, Kansas City, if this actually pans out. So I have Oakland beating Kansas City, as you can see. So Oakland and New England sets up a pretty awesome offensive showdown. Derek Carr going up against Brady. I've got New England winning there. Pittsburgh beats Tennessee. Steelers and the Patriots, they have the playoff experience, so I think they defeat Carr and Mariota respectively. Obviously, Carr hasn't been in a playoff game yet. As we remember from last season, he got hurt. So New England beats Pittsburgh in the AFC title game. I got New England beating Green Bay. Way to go out on a limb there in the Super Bowl, Adrian.
You know, sometimes you got to just kind of pick what you feel. So I get it. I mean, I would say you went out on a far enough limb, not only saying that the Cardinals were going to be a winning team, but also were going to be the best team in the NFC. So you went on your limb. I don't think you're short on that. For me, the Cardinals, it comes down to two players. Fluker at left tackle, could he all of a sudden make a massive jump? He struggled last year. I don't personally see it, but if he can make a massive jump, great. And then who's the other receiver? Because we know Larry Fitzgerald's a stud. Is it going to be John Brown? Can he come back? Is it going to be J.J. Nelson? They need something there to really offset Larry Fitzgerald.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a John Brown guy, so I think he rebounds. So there's part of that too. You know, I like the players in Arizona. I like the defense a lot. We'll see what happens. They got the best cornerback in the game, in my opinion, Patrick Peterson. I don't know about the other corner, if he's going to do so hot. We'll see. It's somebody, I forget who it is. Who is it off the top of my head? Do you know? It's like it's like a second or third year player. But so that'll be interesting to see. But yeah, Arizona, 12-4. I'm going to be wrong, and it's going to be great. So there you go. Let's get into MVPs and Rookie of the Year. So MVP, who do you got?
MVP, Thomas Brady. Give me the surefire thing. I think when you add more weapons around him, I think Brady is going to do it again. Although there's a ton of candidates here. I mean, I think it's not a stretch to see if we somehow see the Raiders become the 2 seed. Derek Carr's in that conversation. If Tennessee becomes a 2 seed, Mariota's in that conversation. I mean, look, as long as QB12 is taking snaps under center in Green Bay, Mr. Rogers in his neighborhood, he's always going to be in that conversation as well. But I just like Brady. I think, unfortunately, that for the NFL's sake, he's gotten better. He's gotten more weapons around him. He's gotten an elite level deep ball threat. So I have Brady win the MVP. And typically, if the NFL MVP, you're also usually the offensive player of the year. Now, defensive player of the year, last year it was Khalil Mack. I think it's going to stay in the division, but I think it's going to go to Von Miller. And my big reason for that is the development of Shane Ray. I think Shane Ray has really moved into his own. I think he's taken over that next step to really complete and really complement Von Miller to a next level, which I think is really going to help him. Obviously, the situation that they're dealing with Wolf, one of the undersung defensive ends there, if he's out for an extended period of time, that's a big issue. We hope that things are good for him, but I like Von Miller there as my defensive player of the year. Offensive rookie.
Has he won a defensive player of the year yet? Has he won one?
I don't believe so. I think he's been the silver medalist a couple of times, but I don't think he's won one yet. I know Khalil Mack won it last year, and then it was J.J. Watt a couple years in a row, and then there was Luke Kuechly. So I don't think that Von Miller has won one yet.
That's a good pick. I like that one.
When we go to the rookies, I was split here with 3 rookie players. McCaffrey is obviously going to get his fair shares all over the field, so he's going to have a really diverse resume. We know for a fact that Fournette is going to get his touches. But give me Kareem Hunt. And the big reason I like Kareem Hunt, obviously we know that he is going to be the running back 1 there in Kansas City. But when I sit down and I look at the offensive lines for Kansas City, for Carolina, and then for Jacksonville, Carolina and Jacksonville are nowhere near what Kansas City is, in my opinion. So I am much more confident there in Kareem Hunt. I also know for a fact that Jonathan Stewart, he's going to still get carries. He's probably going to get a lot of the red zone carries. So he's going to vulture a couple of those touchdowns away from McCaffrey. And I have no confidence in Bortles. I think Fournette's going to see a lot of 8-man boxes. That's going to be difficult for him to really succeed. Defensive Rookie of the Year, give me Reuben Foster. And I like Reuben Foster because the concerns for him were medical. There's a reason he fell in the draft, and it was all medical concerns. But as you watch the preseason games, if you really want to treat, go watch him play against the Vikings. Dude is a missile. He flies around the field. I think I'm very confident in Reuben Foster, unless, of course, he knocks himself out because he is a bit of a headhunter, which is realistic. The sleeper Defensive Rookie of the Year, I don't think he'll do it, but I do like Barnett in Philly. I think he's walking into an unbelievable situation with the defensive line around him. I think he's in a great spot to not face a lot of double teams. He's not going to be asked to do more than he has to because there's a lot of other defensive linemen who can rotate with him. I think he'll have a very productive year. Defensive Rookie of the Year, not quite, but he'll have a very good Defensive Rookie of the Year contender there.
Okay. All right. So my MVP, I originally went Aaron Rodgers, and I was like, you know what? Fuck it. I'm going to pick somebody else. So I went with Derek Carr. I went with Derek Carr as my MVP, and a lot of it has to do with the fact that they're going to have to outscore people to win games. So he's going to throw for a bunch of yards, he's going to throw for a bunch of touchdowns, all that. So the stats at the end of the year are going to look really nice, and I think that wins him the MVP. So Derek Carr will be my guy there. Defensive Player of the Year. You know, that's hard. But since I have the Cardinals going 12-4, I'm going to go with Patrick Peterson. So you take the best player on a 12-4 team, I'll go there. I didn't. I'll tell you what, Brendan. I didn't make my predictions for this segment until right now. So, like, a lot of these things I'm coming up with off the top of my head. All right, Offensive Rookie of the Year. I'm going Leonard Fournette. I think the situation presents itself where he's going to get a shit ton of carries. I don't know how many he's going to get. Could get over 300. We'll see. But they're going to be running the rock. I think he gets like 1,200 yards, something like 8 to 10 touchdowns. That wins him the MVP. That wins him the Offensive Rookie of the Year. The other guy to keep an eye on, DeShone Kizer in Cleveland. I can see him putting up some numbers, maybe winning the Rookie of the Year. We'll see about that. Defensive Rookie of the Year, I kept it simple, stupid. I went Myles Garrett. I like what I've seen from him in the preseason, so he's the best defensive player in the draft. So I went with him.
Yeah, I mean, anytime you're drafted number 1 overall, good chance for good things are going to happen to you. You know, so I think that's a completely fair thing. Kizer, I won't disagree with you, but I just have a hard time seeing it because I don't think they're going to win more than 5 games. And if you're a rookie quarterback and you're not winning more than 5 games, I don't see you getting any big awards. You're 100% right. Fournette's probably going to get more touches than any rookie running back this year. So he's going to have the largest opportunities to really wow. I just think he's got an uphill battle in front of him there. The one guy I didn't talk about that I know a lot of people have picked is O.J. Howard. And I love O.J. Howard. I'll say that. When the Baltimore Ravens were up on the clock, I was screaming, pick O.J. Howard, and they didn't. And he went to an unbelievable situation with an unbelievable offense. The problem I have is I don't think he walks in as the starting tight end day one. And I also already know even if he did walk in and he was the starter day one, he's not the red zone threat. Mike Evans is. And I just don't know if he's going to see enough targets to get that volume. However, down the line, he could very well be the best player in this draft. But I just don't see him getting the targets. Skill is certainly there to be Offensive Rookie of the Year. Probably not the opportunities to be.
Tight ends normally, it takes a while for them to get acclimated to the NFL, especially a two-way guy like O.J. Howard. You know, I think it'll be a little easier for a guy like Evan Ingram, who's just going to be catching the football a lot. But a guy like O.J. Howard, yes, it takes time. So, I'm with you there. I agree.
It does. It takes tight ends a little bit because you got to remember tight ends is the only offensive position where they have to sit in the run blocking meetings and then also in the pass options. They're the only real position because receivers, all you're really asking them to do is stock block and shadow block. But tight ends, there's a lot of times that they're going to be soloed up on a DN, whether it's pass protection and max protection, or they're going run block and they might have to, pull block, or they might have to skip block up to get a linebacker. there's a lot that's asked of a tight end in the NFL. So I think typically the tight end is probably the second biggest offensive curve for rookies in the NFL, behind quarterbacks, of course. But I think O.J. Howard's going to do very well. I just don't think he'll be the rookie of the year.
Yeah. All right. That's it. That is it. That is all. All 32 teams, our prediction show. Despite my malfunctions, we got it complete. Had to break it up in 2 parts because of my idiocy. So, but we are done. Now what?
Yeah. It's kind of like running into a brick wall face first.
Well, I'll tell you what. We are going to do prediction shows each week. I don't know if we're probably not going to be able to do it before the game tomorrow. So I'm assuming you have work till late, right?
Yeah, but there's nothing to predict. It's the Patriots here. I mean, there's no question. Give me Tom Brady an entire offseason versus the Monstars, and I'm still going to take Tom Brady. So, yeah, Patriots here, no question in my mind. I assume that's what you got too.
Yeah. Now, the question for you is this. Do you want to do regular pick'em predictions, or do you want to do them against the spread?
You know, I think it might. Man, this is a tough one, Adrian. I'll go back and forth, and
I'm asking you because you're in Vegas. That's the only reason why.
Let's do the spread. That's going to make it harder, but I think that's more fun.
That's a lot of fun. It's going to be a lot of fun doing that. Let's do that, and both of us are going to be under 500, so it's going to show us how completely clueless we are.
Yep, 100% right. Look, there's a reason that Vegas is undefeated. So usually whatever the spread is, that's what you pretty much say. Vegas is probably going to be right. So
there you go. All right, so that's what we'll do. And maybe we'll get Kyle incorporated in these videos. We'll see. Well, unfortunately, he has to go to bed early. So, you know, it's funny. It's like, I got to work around with everyone in my crew, damn it. You know, it's like Mike Owens can't do previews anymore with me because he works for the Inquirer. You work too late. Fucking Kyle gets up too early. Like, what the hell?
Here it is, Adrian. All right. Patriots opened as a 7-point favorite. Okay. Total is 50 points. So my question for you is, do the Patriots cover the 7-point, and is there 50 points scored in the game?
Yes and yes.
I agree.
I think the Patriots easily win this game. Like 34-17. So 51 points. Which is like right on the number.
Pretty much right on. Yeah, the big concern I have is just, can the Chiefs score more than 14 points? Because if they score more than 14, you'll be over. But that's a concern. I don't know if the Chiefs can. I think they will, though, ultimately.
Yeah. Now, 34 points, that's a lot for the Patriots against that defense. But, you know, couple reasons. I think, well, their offense hums against anybody. But also, generally speaking, Andy Reid teams start slow. And I can see this being one of those type of situations where the Chiefs just get blasted. And that's just what it is.
Yeah, no disagreements here.
All right, so we'll figure out when to do that show. Maybe we'll do that Friday, Saturday even. I don't know. When do you want to do that?
Yeah, we'll figure it out. We'll figure it out. We'll go from there.
Okay, so what we'll do is, for week 1, we'll figure it out. But for other weeks, I guess we'll do like Wednesday. So we'll do the Eagles preview Wednesday, and then we'll do the NFL preview later on the night. That's what we'll do. Okay. All right, so that's what it is. Brendan Albert, I'm Adrian Fedke. Thank you guys for tuning in and watching all 32 of our team previews. Thank you for sticking with us. And hopefully you guys don't think we're idiots. So there you go. For Brendan Albert, I'm Adrian Fedke. We're out.
Appreciate it, guys.